Okay, Mr. Martinez, thank you for joining us today. Why don't you give us a little background? Where were you born?
I was born in San Luis, Colorado, October 12, 1918. And the day I was born, my father and mother were stricken with the flu epidemic of 1918. And I was born that morning, and they died right after I was born.
Both of them.
And my grandmother adopted me.
Okay. All right. And so you were in a farm? Is that where you were raised?
In a farm, yeah.
And it was, you helped out on the farm?
Well, no, I was a baby there, and my grandmother moved back to Colorado Springs where she lived.
Okay.
So I was raised there until I was 10 years old.
Okay.
And then she got too old to take care of me. So they recommended that she go back to the farm.
Right.
To live with my uncle.
Sure.
Which her son.
Okay.
And after about 5 years, she was paralyzed.
Okay.
Couldn't talk, couldn't walk, or nothing.
Oh, I see.
So she stayed about 4 years there, and then my aunt took her into town with her to take care of her.
Okay. So you were raised on the farm with your uncle until...
Yeah, I was at 10 years old when I went to the farm.
So 10 to 17. And when you were 17, you had some uncles that recommended you go to Los Angeles, is that right?
Yeah, I had an uncle that came from Chicago to visit the family, and he told me that I was smart enough and I was a good worker, I could make a living on my own.
Okay.
So he told me to leave that place because it wasn't suited for me.
Okay.
So I packed up my gear and headed for California and caught a freight train.
Okay. And did you have any money? Just very...
I had $5.
$5 in your pocket, and
yeah.
You were 17 years old, and you just jumped on a train? Is that how you did it?
I jumped on a passenger train from Fort Garland, Colorado. It was in the wintertime, and I went across La Vida Pass.
Uh-huh.
And I was riding behind the engine, the tender, and the Baggy Express car.
Right.
And I wrapped my arms around like that, clamped my fingers, so I wouldn't fall down.
Oh, okay.
And the snow coming from a tender was hitting me right in the face,
wow.
Covered me up with snow all the way.
So you really wanted to get to California.
So I got down, when a train came down to La Vida Pass, they inspected the brakes and make sure they were okay. And that's where they, I couldn't see because I was covered with snow in that Baggy Express car. And I kept yelling, "Here I am, here I am." And they finally found me. They looked around, and there I was. They took all that snow away from my body. They got me down and took me into the depot, and they unfroze me there in the pot-belly stove they had there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you wound up in California, worked there for a few years?
Then I spent about a year in California. And then I met a friend there by the Union Depot where I used to take a break.
Okay.
And he wanted to go to, we read in the paper where they had an editorial there. It said that they wanted people to go around the world cruise.
Okay.
We had to go to San Francisco to sign up for it.
Right. So this is the middle of the Depression.
Yeah, during the Depression.
During the Depression.
So we went to San Francisco and signed up for it, and they never called our name, so
yeah.
We had to get out of there because we didn't have much money.
How many other people were applying for that job?
It's hundreds of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a bad time.
There was no work in those days.
Then you went back to Denver and signed up with the Army, didn't you?
Yeah, I went. I went to Sacramento, California, and we earned some money there tearing down a farm.
A barn.
And we headed to Wyoming and Colorado.
Okay. Okay.
And I went to Denver, and I started working as a busboy in a restaurant.
Okay.
And I was walking down Kerr Street in Denver one morning, and I seen this Army recruiting station there.
Okay.
And I was reading the posters outside. It says, "Join the Army and see the world."
Wow.
So I kept reading all these posters.
Huh.
And the recruiting sergeant was inside observing what I was doing.
Okay.
So he came out and said, "Sergeant, are you interested in joining the Army?" Well, I said, "I'm liking about this joining the world. I'd like to see that." So he says, "Come inside, I'll give you a briefing."
Yeah.
He showed me some paperwork, and before you know it, I signed up to join the Army, the Horse Cavalry in Fort Bliss, Texas.
And that was in 1939?
Right, in November 1939.
So you joined the Army and you joined the cavalry.
I was in the Horse Cavalry in the 7th Regiment. That was the most famous regiment of the Horse Cavalry because that was Custer's regiment.
General Custer.
General
Okay.
Custer.
Wow.
And I stayed there a few months, and then they transferred me to the 5th Regiment, which is down in Bracketville, Texas, in Fort Clark.
In Fort Clark.
And there, when I was in Fort Clark, that's when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor when I was in Fort Bliss, Texas.
Fort Bliss. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's
that would
when-
have been 2 years later.
Yeah,
So you were in training as a cavalryman and in the U.S. Army for 2 years before, or at least 2 years before the war even broke out.
right.
And what happened on when you heard about Pearl Harbor? Where were you?
Well, he said, "Well, I guess we're going to fight a war." This famous speech about the what was it?
The day that will live in.
Infamy.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
they were looking for people to join a reconnaissance squadron, armored reconnaissance. We were horses.
Yeah.
So that's when I joined the 91st Cavalry Recon Squadron.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it all kind of happened around the same time. And didn't you do some maneuvers before you went before the war broke out in 41? There were some Louisiana maneuvers in August and September.
Yeah.
And that was a big, massive undertaking in order to evaluate the Army and see if you could integrate horses or integrate the Jeep and the
Right.
and the what was it, the tank? How you were going to do modern warfare? They were analyzing that. So you did participate in that.
Yeah. Two maneuvers.
Okay, great. So there were thousands of men involved in that one.
Oh yeah, they call them the Blue and the Red Army. And we were fighting a simulated mock war.
Okay.
And
So the war broke out. It was now D-Day, so we're at December 7th, 1941. And they started, General Patton was assigned to figure out an area where you could fight in the desert
Right.
because what was going on in North Africa.
in North Africa.
So you were sent out on the train, is that right, to Desert Training Center in India?
Right.
Tell us about Desert Training Center.
Well, we were usually the first troops to arrive there.
The very
And when we arrived there, they set up a camp there, pyramidal tents and what have you. And we started taking training for desert warfare. And we would go out in the desert and in the hot sun like
How
that.
hot was it out there?
About 118, 120, very pretty hot.
Wow. So you were testing yourselves out there.
We were testing, they were testing the endurance of the armored vehicles and the human soldiers.
Okay.
And we go out on maneuvers 3 or 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
And they try to test the endurance of how the vehicle would do in that kind of weather. And how the GI would do in that kind of weather.
Wow.
And
Now tell us about didn't you, there was some kind of, you were in Troop B, is that right?
I was assigned to Troop B, yeah.
And you were, at that time, were you a private or were you a corporal?
I was a private.
You were a private at that time, okay. And didn't they assign you in that race riot that occurred in that magnesium plant in Nevada they couldn't quell?
Yeah, General Patton got word that the Nevada National Guard couldn't handle the race riot.
Okay.
So they needed some regular Army troops.
Okay.
And General Patton sent Troop B to Las Vegas. Actually, it was in Henderson, Nevada, which is outside of Las Vegas.
Okay.
And they had a magnesium plant there, and they had built emergency housing. And they had outdoor
Privies?
privies.
Okay.
And that's what the whole race ride was. The whites didn't want to use the same privy as the blacks were using, or other nationalities. So before it got out of hand, and that's when they sent our company over there, and we surrounded the whole camp there. And he set up machine guns, 50 caliber machine guns, in the corner of the compound, and 30 caliber machine guns in between.
Right.
And he had a meeting with the mayor of the town there, told him, he says, we mean business here, so you tell your people to quiet down, or we're going to shoot. We have live ammunition.
Wow.
And
on
we
civilians.
Huh?
The Army was doing that on the civilians that were there.
And we have live ammunition, so
Yeah. That ended
so
that.
everything ended. That was the end of the race, right?
That's the end of that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, after you finished training, did you then get on the trains to board North Africa on the big boats?
Yeah, well, they loaded us on a boat there in Indio, California,
Or on the train,
and loaded all our equipment, our tanks and weapons that we had, and we headed all the way to A.P. Hill, Virginia.
Okay. Okay. And then from there you got on the New Jersey.
Then we took more training at A.P. Hill, Virginia,
Okay.
and they shipped us to Fort Dix, New Jersey,
Right.
and we spent there a few days.
Okay.
And then they put it on a train. They covered all the windows and everything,
They blackened them out, huh?
blackened them out so they wouldn't know who was inside.
Ah.
And they shipped us to the
Docks. The docks. in
the
New
dock
Jersey.
there in New York City. Yeah.
Okay, great.
We got on a boat and we headed for North Africa.
And did you meet the British midway?
They had another convoy coming in from England,
Okay.
and we met him somewhere in near the Azores.
Okay.
And then the Americans landed in two places, in Casablanca, and part of it landed in Tunis.
Okay.
And then the British First Army, they landed near Busirti, Tunisia.
Okay.
And
Did you encounter any U-boats, any submarines from the Germans?
yeah, they had the U-boats, the Wolfpack. But we were pretty well protected. Our capital ship was a battleship of Texas,
Oh, really?
which is in storage now here in Houston.
Oh.
That was a main battleship.
That was the main battleship that you went
We
on?
had heavy cruisers and all that.
Right.
And then, of course, the other convoy coming from England, they had a different battleship to protect them.
Wow, that's great.
And we landed outside of Casablanca, about 20 miles.
On Christmas Eve, was it 1942?
1942, yeah.
Yeah. So then, what do you remember about did you then go get assigned to go to that conference as an honor guard? Tell us about being an honor guard, the 91st being an honor guard during the...
Oh, yeah, they told General Patton that they needed some honor guards in Marrakesh for that conference between Roosevelt, Churchill,
Right.
and the French
De
leader,
Gaulle, yeah.
de Gaulle. And so they were having a conference in Casablanca, but they were staying for security reasons in Marrakesh.
Okay.
And they picked a villa there. We were surrounded by high walls.
All right.
And we were the bodyguards for the three parties that were in the conference. And then we had to guard the airport also.
Wow. So they were
That's where the plane was.
at least the two most important men on the planet at the time.
That's where
Roosevelt and Churchill.
so they
yeah.
set up machine guns and everything around that compound. And we were set up to guard different areas.
Sure.
And Short would come out and after they had supper in the evening, and he'd walk around the compound and ask us questions where we were from, this and that.
Really?
And then Roosevelt, they'd go to the back porch here outside in a wheelchair. But we never talked to him at all.
Oh, not to Roosevelt.
No.
But did you ever talk to Churchill? Did he come by?
But, oh yeah, he said he stopped and talked to just all of us.
And did he talk to you as well?
Yeah.
What did he ask
Asked me
you?
what my name was, where I was from.
What'd you tell him?
Tell him I was from Colorado. I was a farmer of Colorado.
Yeah,
And
that's
things
great.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Now, after that conference, there was a lot of fighting that went on toward Tunisia in that area. Was Kasserine Pass? Did you go up there?
Yeah, well, see, the British were driving the German Rommel's forces north, and they were retreating north. And of course, we were shipped from there after that conference. We were shipped over to Tunisia.
Okay.
And we were under Patton, Second Corps.
Okay.
And so we joined the British First Army was on the north.
Okay.
And they were pushing east, and we were in between the British Fifth Army, First Army, and the Montgomery's Eighth Army coming in from the south.
Oh, okay. So you're trying to push the Germans
So we were
out now?
we were right in the middle of both armies.
Okay.
But we were only a corps. We were small compared to the armies.
Okay.
So finally, the Germans were driven out of Tunisia. They surrendered, the Germans and the Italians. And they shipped us into someplace in North Africa, in Tunis, really. But I don't remember the name of the town.
Ferryville or
Something like that, I guess.
yeah, up there. Yeah.
And we got prepared for a landing in Megillah Beachhead in
I see what
Sicily.
you're saying. After you pushed the Germans out and they
Yeah,
surrendered,
they surrendered.
You then went into Sicily.
Into Sicily.
And where did you land? What beachhead were you?
We landed in Megillah Beachhead.
Okay.
G-E-L-A, Gila Beachhead.
Okay, okay. And did you? What happened there? Wasn't there something that you remembered that was kind of a painful memory about the Navajo Indian? What was the story about that?
Oh yeah, when they landed at the Gila Beachhead, I was assigned one beach. See, when you landed, you had different beaches, and they had a flag number: red beach, blue beach, yellow. I was assigned to one beach.
Okay.
And right adjacent to me was another beach, and this Indian from Arizona.
Okay.
He's from a Navajo reservation. He was assigned to that. And we were getting bombed by German F-109s about every 15, 20 minutes. They come in and strafe the beach with a machine gun and drop a 250-pound bomb and take off. And then 15 minutes later, they come back again.
Right.
So they were hitting us pretty hard on the beaches.
Oh, okay.
And of course, there was a lot of sand, so as long as you didn't get a direct hit, you had pretty good chance of surviving.
Okay.
So this Indian was so scared over there. He noticed that he was getting hit more than I was.
Oh, okay.
So I said, "You want to transfer beaches with me?" I said, "I don't make any difference. I'll touch her." So I went to his beach, and he came to mine.
Okay.
And maybe 15, 20 minutes later, he got a hit from a German bomb, direct hit, and that was the end of him.
Wow. How did that make you feel?
It made me sick inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like that could have been you?
Yeah. No, I never thought about me.
Oh, really? You were just...
Never thought about
Well, why
me.
did you even decide that you wanted to switch with him if he was getting bombed more?
I don't know. He just asked me if you do it. I said, "Sure, I'd do it. Don't make any difference what beach I'm in."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any nightmares about that later on after the war? Things
Oh,
like
after
that.
the war, I had nightmares for 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I'd wake up screaming in the morning,
Yeah.
at night, and real bad nightmares.
Yeah.
It took me 5 years to get over it.
Overcome those nightmares, yeah. So now after you hit Gila Beach, you were now in the race to Messina with General Patton still, right? You were under General Patton.
Yeah,
and you were
he was in the
Sicily.
7th Army, yeah.
Okay. And you overran Sicily in a month,
Right.
and it was just you were probably moving pretty fast, right?
They're moving pretty fast, yeah.
Yeah. So.
See, they had the British landed, the 8th Army landed sort of on the south of us on a different beach, and we landed on the Gila Beaches, which is on the west side of the island.
Right.
And we went sort of northeast, I guess.
Okay.
And the British were coming straight from south to the west. And the object was to get to Messina first, between Patton and
Right.
the British commander.
The south to the east. You were
Yeah.
heading around the west, and he was coming from the east. Okay.
And they were trying to get whoever got there first to get the credit for it.
Right. Okay. So there was a lot of competition
There's a
between
lot,
the Allies, even.
conflict and all that between the Allies.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because General Alexander was, Marshal Alexander was the commander of the whole complex there.
Okay.
And then Montgomery was the commander of the British 8th Army.
Okay.
And Patton was commander of the American 7th Army.
Okay.
So Patton went around that side, and he got to Messina before Patton did.
Or
Before
Patton.
Montgomery.
Oh, okay. Patton got there
Yeah.
first. Yeah. So it was a big deal.
Yeah, he got there first.
Now, when you were up in Palermo before you crossed over to Italy, didn't something happen about? Tell me about that experience you told me about.
So our first sergeant.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, our first sergeant. So we were camped near Palermo there, and there was a German ammunition hand grenades and Italian hand grenades. They were in rows. I guess about 10 or 15 rows of hand grenades.
So hundreds of them.
The Germans had they had the potato masher that they used to it had a handle, you threw it like that.
It looked like a tin can.
And
with
the
a handle.
Italians had a little thing about that big.
Uh-huh.
And he got one of those hand grenades, and he pulled a pin and threw it out there, and it exploded.
Okay.
Like a normal hand grenade will do.
Right.
And the sergeant, our corporal, he was in charge of the ammunition there.
He was a specialist in ammunition.
Yeah, he was a specialist in that. He said, "Don't pull those things. Don't fool around." Oh, I said, "They're not going to hurt me." So he picked up another one, and this corporal, of course, he was the first sergeant. He told him not to do it, but he went ahead and done it. He pulled a second one, and he took off. This corporal, he didn't want to get no part of those ammunition dumps.
Right.
And the third one that he picked up, it blew in his face. The whole thing bombed out.
In whose face?
There was nothing
The first
left.
sergeant's face?
There was nothing left of that man. All they could find was his pocket knife,
Wow.
and everything else was obliterated.
Wow.
All his body was scattered all over those olive trees.
Wow. What a memory.
What
Bad memory.
a sight!
Ooh.
Sickening.
Yeah. So, now did you, how many men were in the 91st Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron?
We had around 900 and some
Uh-huh.
full complement.
And what were they, what kind of a breakdown were they? A, B, C, or?
They had companies, headquarters A, B, C, D, E, F. And A headquarters was where it took care of all the records and what have you.
Right.
A company was primary combat.
Okay.
And the same thing with B company and C company.
Right, okay.
They were combat.
So did you act as infantry in a lot of ways?
Sometimes we did, yeah.
Your main focus was what? What kind of a group? You were reconnaissance. What is reconnaissance? What does a reconnaissance group do? What do you do when you're in reconnaissance?
Well, you done mostly, if you were fighting a war, you'd be up in the front,
Where the infantry?
looking for the Germans.
Okay.
You'd be up there, you go up on jeeps, and sometimes you had to go on foot like an infantryman.
So you were in front of the front line?
Right, we were the first ones in the line in the front.
Okay.
And our job was to look for the enemy positions and report them back to G2.
Okay.
And we were always in the front line. But our objective was to avoid a fight.
Okay.
And just report information.
Right. But you
So-
also fought.
But if we had to fight, we would fight.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so we had no choice.
Right. Why don't you show them the picture of the flag right there?
Okay, this is a flag, 91st Cavalry flag.
Reconnaissance Squadron.
Squadron.
And I see a U.S. Eagle, and in the middle of the chest, I see, what is the significance of the horseshoe?
Well, the horseshoe when you were assigned the horse cavalry,
Okay, and then the Jeep?
and
why
the
is
others
that
when
on
you
there?
were assigned as the armored reconnaissance
So you have a
squadron.
Jeep wheel and a horse, so you were a combination of a cavalry, but you were mechanized, so that's why
Right,
you had that, okay? And what's the words on the top of that banner at the very top? What is the word there?
Is there alert?
Alert. So you were reconnaissance. You're supposed to be alert.
Right.
Look out for
Be
anything.
alert, right.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing that with us.
And the one bottom one says 91st Reconnaissance Squadron.
Great.
Now,
Now, when you were in, you left Sicily and you boarded. Where was your next boarding to go land in another invasion?
we went to Salerno invasion in Italy.
So you went to Italy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And
And some of them went across the Messina Straits into Italy.
Okay.
And came into the bottom.
so some came from the bottom,
Yeah.
and others went up further.
Because they
up.
were assigned, each division was assigned, each company was assigned to different divisions.
Where were you? Where did you land in Italy?
I landed in Salerno.
In Salerno,
Mm-hmm.
okay. What cities did you fight in Salerno?
Well, we went from Salerno up to Naples,
To Naples, okay.
and from Naples we went up to Caserta,
Mm-hmm.
and then from Caserta we went up to Casino.
Okay.
And we were stalled there in Casino for 2 years.
Is that where that monastery is?
Yeah,
Is that Monte Cassino?
Monte Cassino.
So that was a very large battle that lasted a long time.
2 years.
Wow. So it really wasn't the soft underbelly that Churchill had predicted. That it would be a pretty easy taking of the ground. You found it was a lot tougher to fight in those mountains.
Right.
So now,
Well, they had the high ground, so they had the advantage.
okay.
And they had formed the Gustav line. They
Okay.
call it the Gustav line.
The Gustav line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were well prepared for it.
Uh-huh.
And they had they could shell us in any place they wanted to because they were looking down our throats.
Right, right.
We were down in the valley. And we tried to take that many times. We lost a lot of men, especially the company, the division that lost the most men was a 36th Division from Texas, the
Right.
National Guard.
And now you were attached to that unit for a while. Well, because as I understand it, the reconnaissance group you were with could be attached to various different
Yeah,
armies.
because
and different chiefs.
wherever they needed you the most,
That's very
they would call
interesting.
you.
So far you had been attached to which armies and divisions?
Well, I was attached to the 1st Armored Division, the 36th Division, and different ones. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were in Italy, you probably went from Naples area. Wasn't there a Galliano? Didn't you fight there in Italy, where one of the 91st Cavalry had won the Congressional Medal of Honor? Why don't you tell us about the guy that won that was in your unit that won the Congressional Medal of Honor?
But he was a farmer from Indiana.
What was his name?
I forgot his name.
Jerry Kisters.
Yeah, that's right.
And you knew him there from the.
No, I used to know him just like the rest of them. Yeah.
Right. What did you used to go
See
on?
that all the guys from Indiana
Right.
were National Guard,
Okay.
and they were drafted into the war.
Into your unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were some were assigned to A company, some were assigned to B company, and they're scattered all over.
Right.
And he happened to be in our outfit.
Okay. And and as I understand, he was the first soldier of World War II to receive the Distinguished Service Cross and the Congressional
Medal of Honor, yeah.
as well. So that was very interesting that he was in your unit.
Right.
There were only 1,000 men in your unit. Out of the 17 million men in World War II, only 463 had the Congressional Medal of Honor, and you knew one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now, after you were in Naples and you went up and you're trying to get to Rome, what happened with Anzio? What happened
Well,
with Monte Cassino?
they wanted some volunteers for the invasion of Anzio. So I volunteered for that,
Okay.
to get away from Casino. So I was, so many men joined the invasion forces.
So on the boats?
We had to go by
on the
boat.
boats. Okay.
It's only a short, maybe 70 miles, I guess, something like that. And we landed in Anzio. And the general was overly cautious there. He should have gone all the way up to the high ground.
Right.
But he didn't. He just kept slowly moving up and up.
Along the shoreline.
And by the meantime, the Germans sent in 2 panzer divisions from the north by railroad. And they set up, and they occupied all the high ground.
Uh-oh.
So they were looking down our throat again.
Oh my God.
So that general was replaced by somebody else.
Okay.
And it got so bad there that they gave orders that any sergeant who sees a man trying to retreat, shoot him on the spot.
So you were a sergeant by then?
Yeah.
Okay. And so they told you to shoot your
They
own
told
men?
any sergeant that
They told all the sergeants to shoot their own men
to
if the
shoot
men
their own
retreated?
men.
Wow.
They didn't want them to retreat.
Wow.
Because you only could go back to the beach and in the water.
Yeah.
So,
Did anybody try to retreat?
I never heard of anybody trying to retreat, no.
Yeah, that's good.
I never heard nothing about it, no.
Yeah. And you made it out of there, so that's good.
Yeah.
Fought your way out. Now, after Anzio, where did you go from there?
From there we head all the way up into Rome. Of course, the Germans were retreating north again, and of course they set up mines, anything to delay our advancing, you know. So you had to go through all that. And they had troops in delayed that they were trained in, they call expert shooters,
Right.
and they had them there.
So you were in Italy. Why don't you show that picture of Italy and the tank you had there? I think it's like the second or third pic, the last picture. Keep going. There you go. That last one.
No, this one. We went up. Well, we haven't gone from Rome. We went up to Florence, Italy.
Okay.
And then we ran into the winter line, the defenses the Germans had set up there in that line.
The Caesar line?
North of, yeah.
Okay.
North of Florence.
Okay.
And we spent another winter there.
Okay, so you spent 2 winters in Casino and then another winter in
Three winters
Florence.
altogether in Italy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's...
But that winter we spent in north of Rome, Florence rather, was mild compared to Casino.
So you're only like 50 miles north of Florence or so?
About 30 miles north of Florence,
Okay.
right in the Apennines.
In the Apennine Mountains, okay. And yeah, now did you ever ever get breaks and stuff?
Yeah, they give us a break and go to Rome.
Right. Did you got your picture taken in Naples, didn't you, in your full uniform?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have that picture, so. What pictures do you have in your hand there? Which one are you,
And they have, okay, well, when we broke through north of Florence, we went into Bologna. And from Bologna, we went to Milano.
Milan, okay.
Milano was, and that's where we seen the picture of Mussolini and Clara Petacci was hanging on the Milano's town square.
Right. He's hanging upside down by his ankles.
Yeah,
like,
upside down.
Almost like a slaughtered animal, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. And then that's a gas station. You can see the gas pumps. Right there on the town plaza, huh? How are the Italian people reacting to that?
Well, they were actually murdered by the Partisanos, the Italian Partisanos.
Partisanos, okay.
Yeah, and they're the one that hanged him there.
So they were the ones that were against the fascist Italian.
Yeah, the fascist Mussolini's fascist
They were
government.
his enemies in his own country.
Yeah,
And now they shot him.
they shot him and hanged him there.
And they shot. And who's the woman next to him?
That his girlfriend, Eva Petacci.
Clara Petacci?
Yeah.
Wow, just like, that's amazing. Now, that was around April 29th of 1945, so we're almost to the end of the war here. Yeah, we're close to the end of the war. And by then...
April 27th.
Oh, April 27th.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the other picture you have there?
And that's a flag that they captured of the Germans. This flag here.
So that's a Nazi flag that your unit captured. One of the guys...
A Nazi swastika sign.
Yeah, the 91st Cavalry Reconnaissance, the guys in the 91st actually captured that flag from surrendering German troops.
Right.
And one of the guys mailed that back to his dad, who was a butcher in Indiana, right?
Right.
So Joe Axe, he's
Joe Axe, yeah.
What troop was he? An A, right? Troop A.
He was an A.
Okay, and that was his dad, the butcher there.
Right.
So he.
I was in Troop B. Yeah.
Now, what's that final picture you got there? That last one. What's a picture of
That's that's the picture of an armored tank, which had a 37 millimeter gun.
And I see the Italian buildings in the background. Is that was taken in Italy?
In Italy, yeah.
And that was like a typical troop, a platoon.
Yeah, well, that was a platoon.
And with 2 scout cars.
Which is about 2 scout cars and tanks, and also one officer in charge. About 19 or 20 enlisted men.
Oh, okay, okay. So that did you ever walk alongside? Where were you? Were you driving anything?
No, I was about that time I was a radio operator in a scout car. See, I would go before that. I was assigned as a radio operator for the colonel, and he had lost a lot of radio operators. So what they were doing is
what was the name of that colonel? Colonel Ellis?
Ellis, Colonel Ellis.
Okay.
And I was a jeep driver, his radio operator, and machine gunner.
Okay.
Because we had a 30 caliber machine gun in each jeep.
Right.
And he would get up to the front lines, look for where the fire from the artillery was coming from, and he'd get outside of the jeep.
Okay.
In the meantime, I had to stay in that jeep.
Okay.
And he'd be over there in a foxhole.
Oh, okay.
So I was exposed to that fire.
Sitting in the jeep.
And he had lost, I guess, about 4 or 5 radio operators.
Wow.
So we had a little transmitter, and they call it the 191 transmitter.
Okay.
And it generated 100 watts.
Huh.
If you was within a 20-mile zone of the Germans, they could detect the signal where you was transmitting from if it was high enough.
Okay.
So, because they had 3 direction finders to take a fix on that target.
Okay.
And within seconds, they had a shot right on your butt.
Oh my God. So they'd zero in on you and just blow your jeep?
So I got to thinking, I said, I'm going to turn it real low. We had a dummy antenna, and I used to turn it up to 5 watts.
What was the maximum you could turn it up to?
Up to 100.
Oh, okay.
So I turned it to 5 watts, and I had to repeat the message 3 or 4 or 5 times. But I wouldn't go higher than that.
You didn't want to die.
And the colonel said, "What's the matter with you, man? Can't you get through the headquarters to artillery?" Well, I'm trying, I'm trying. So after a while, they finally dawned on me. I said, "This guys were transmitting too many wattage."
Oh.
And that's how they were taking a direct hit on their jeep.
Wow, that's how they die, right?
That's how they died.
And so you didn't want to die.
They put the word out to all the radio operators to, when they were within artillery range of the German guns, to just go slow with that wattage, a little bit at a time,
So
until you get contact.
So that colonel he was in charge of the whole 91st. All
He
1,000
was
men.
in charge of the 91st
So he was
recon.
a big guy.
Yeah.
And you were his Jeep driver for, how long were you his Jeep driver?
I was a beach driver for about 2 weeks.
2 weeks, but you wanted out? Is that what, you didn't want to be there, right? You
No.
wanted to go back?
So I deliberately, we'd be down the road, I'd be the driver, and I'd deliberately hit a pot.
Oh, you
And
deliberately did a
a foxhole, and anything, to make that thing bounce. And the old man would say, "What's the matter, man? Can't you drive?" I said, "I'm trying, sir, I'm trying."
You want to get out of that job.
So finally he told me, he said, "You don't like the job, do you?" I said, "I sure don't. Send me back to my outfit again." Okay, I'll send you over there, sir. That was the end of Colonel Allen's for me.
Yeah, you didn't have to.
But I survived.
You made it. Now, did you have any girlfriends while you were fighting over there in Italy?
Well, I met a girlfriend when we were in north of Rome, and I spent a winter in the Apennines. And we spent there, about 4 months, I think. Mm-hmm. And we'd go to the dances every Saturday in the local community there, and I'd dance up a storm with the girls.
Did you talk Italian? Did you speak Italian?
Yeah, I spoke Italian.
How did you speak Italian?
I learned it because it's very similar to Spanish. I knew Spanish, I could read and write Spanish, so Italian is very similar to Spanish.
Now, how come you can read and write Spanish? How did you learn Spanish?
My great-great-grandfather taught me Spanish.
Oh, what was his name?
His name was Francisco
And his last name?
Garcia.
Okay, and you're from a long line of Spaniards that settled southern Colorado and northern New Mexico.
Yeah,
that
that's
right?
the original Spanish land grant. When they conquered the Southwest, they used to send an officer in the Spanish army to recruit so many people to bring them back to the New World.
Ah.
So in this town of San Luis, which is the oldest town in Colorado, the Spaniards settled there.
And it's the oldest European settlement in Colorado, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and they settled there in 1841.
Okay, in the 1800s.
So they recruited 15 families from Spain, and they put them on a boat, and they landed somewhere around Veracruz, Mexico. And it took them 200 years to get to the destinations, because the Indians had an uprising in the Southwest, Colorado, New Mexico, and they chased all the Spanish people south into Mexico. And the ones that stayed there, they turned them into slaves or they killed them.
But then they came back.
And it took them 200 years to finally make it to San Luis, Colorado.
So they were in San Luis there. And that's where your family
And there, so the family was needed so many acres per family.
But they were in Santa Fe for a long time, since the 1600s.
Well, they were in Santa Fe, they were all over. But I mean, to get to that destination, it took them, you didn't get there till 1851.
Get to that particular town. But they were in northern New Mexico.
Northern New Mexico,
and
yeah.
southern Colorado for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were in there since the 1600s.
Yeah.
They had settlers there. So you were from a long tradition. And isn't your birth certificate in Spanish? Your actual birth certificate is written in Spanish.
Yeah, Spanish, yeah.
So Spanish had been spoken in northern New Mexico and southern Colorado pretty much all during your childhood, is that correct?
Right.
But you did learn English as well.
Yeah.
But it was just still a very Spanish-oriented environment.
Right.
Where your culture is very strong there. So Italian was pretty easy for you then.
Yeah, very easy.
Okay. So then you met a girl there.
And I could hear regular conversation, Italian, just like Spanish.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, did you from Florence? So you saw Mussolini. It's now April of 1945. Hitler 2 days later kills himself in the bunker by taking a pill and shooting himself in the head. So pretty much it's getting close to Victory Europe Day. Where were you when they announced the Victory Europe
Well,
Day?
from where we were north of Florence, we headed north to Bologna, what they call a Po Valley there.
Right.
And we got into the Po Valley from Milano. We went to Torino.
Torino, okay.
That's on the west side of Italy.
Okay.
And then we went up to the Brenner Pass.
Oh, okay.
And we were at the foothills of Brenner Pass when they announced over the radio that the Germans had surrendered.
Wow. That must have been exciting. How did you feel about that?
That felt good. So then they had some trouble up in the Italian and what's the name of that other place?
Czechoslovakia?
Huh?
Trieste?
Yeah, Trieste.
Trieste, Italy?
That's near the Adriatic Sea,
Okay.
north of the Adriatic Sea.
Okay.
And they sent our squadron over there.
Okay.
We stayed there. I stayed there a few days, and they came back and they announced that anybody that had over 100 points could fly back to the States and get discharged.
Wow.
So I had 105 points.
Oh,
So
wow.
you accumulated those points to how many campaigns you went through in the war,
Right.
how long you've been there,
Right.
and how many campaigns you fought.
Okay. So how many campaigns did you fight?
Well, I had, I think altogether 7.
Wow.
7
Can you
altogether.
remember those 7?
I can remember some of them.
Let's see, you had North Africa.
Was in North Africa, and then
Sicily.
Sicily,
Yeah.
and then Salerno, the 4 invasions.
Okay.
That counted too.
Uh-huh.
And then the casino front,
Okay.
then the front up in
Anzio.
up
Anzio.
Anzio,
Okay.
and then
Rome.
the Rome, and then the one in
Po Valley.
the Po Valley, yeah.
That's right. That's wonderful.
And then
It's a lot of campaigns that you fought.
yeah,
So you were total in how many years? And you started out December 24th, Christmas Eve of 1942, and the war ended May 7th,
1945.
1945. So that was
3 years and
3.5 years.
yeah.
3.5 years in the war. That's a long time. And where were you sleeping when you were fighting during this time?
I sleep on the ground, sleep on the half track, and wherever I could find.
Did you? I mean, did they give you? I mean, were you warm at night, or was it? How was those? How was?
No, sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. But,
Yeah.
and then sometimes we slept in the Italian homes, you know, where we were
really?
staying, you know.
Oh, well, that's nice.
But in general, we mostly stayed. We stepped outside.
Yeah. And what was the mud like in Italy? The mud, with the conditions.
Well, in casino, it was miserable. They had the worst 2 winters they ever had there in many years.
Wow.
And we would be up to our ankles, up to our knees in mud there.
Your knees.
No.
Wow. Yeah.
We'd always be cold, freezing to death.
Freezing.
Yeah.
What about? Tell me about your food. What did you eat when you were in World War?
Well, we had K rations, C rations, and then once in a while we get hot meals. The cooks would drive up with a truck, and they had the kitchen in the back,
Oh, okay.
and they'd give us a hot meal.
Uh-huh. And how did you shower? Did you shower every day?
No, we only showered. You get a break about every 3 months if you've been in combat, and they send you back to the rear where they had a bunch of trucks with showers and everything. And you get over there, and you would shower in one truck that had nothing but chemicals on it, and spray that chemical all over your body
Oh,
Then-
why was the chemical? What chemical?
to kill all the germs and things that you had in your body.
Okay.
And then you go to the next trader, and you take a hot shower, and wash your hair and everything, your whole body.
Huh.
Nice, good, soapy water.
Oh, wow, that must
That
have
was
been a
very
luxury.
good. And then when you come out of that, then you go over there and pick up your clothes. They had clothes stacked up.
Was it new clothes or?
Yeah, new
Give
clothes.
you a new set of clothes.
And you pick the size that you wanted, and your shoes and everything.
Did you go through a lot of boots?
No, I never wasted many shoes. I was very light on my shoes.
And other
But
guys?
a lot of guys were very heavy on their shoes.
Really?
And one time, one of the ships that was coming from the States was loaded with shoes for the troops in Italy.
Okay.
And they were sunk.
By the German U-boats?
Yeah. And we didn't have no shoes there for months and months and months. Some guys were practically barefooted. They had paper stuff in the back, in the heel to protect them from the cold.
Yeah.
And mine were still in good shape.
You're light.
I was lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they read.
So then, so what did you learn as a man? What did you learn as a man from this whole experience? How did it affect you, your way you thought, and your view on life? Did you change anything, or was it the same? Or?
Well, I think it changed a lot of things in me after that as a man. Because when I joined the Army, I was a young man. And
How old were you?
Wild and carefree.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I was more matured, I'd been through hell
Yeah.
for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And it changed my whole outlook in life.
Yeah. So
No,
you
it's
were more
just-
serious?
I have to go look for a job.
Right.
And I tried different jobs, but the job that I always loved was communications. So, and the Army taught me that. They sent me to school.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Fort Riley, Kansas, and then I took another course in high-speed radio operator,
And did you learn the Morse code?
International Morse code, yeah.
And didn't you meet you knew another guy that you were with the CCC there? Didn't you, wasn't there a Joe Martinez?
Joe Martinez,
Tell
yeah.
us about how you met Joe Martinez and who Joe Martinez is.
Well, Joe Martinez was from the name of that town was La Garita, Colorado. It's a little town, maybe about 50 families, and that's it.
Okay.
And a very poor town, all farmers.
Right.
And
In Colorado?
he joined the CCC camp
Okay.
about the time I did.
Okay.
And I was through him, the CCC camp for about 6 months with him.
What was the CCC exactly?
The Civilian Conservation Corps.
And was that under FDR?
That was one of the programs that FDR assigned to get some money for the families. We used to get $30 a month, and you kept $5, and you sent $25 home to whoever your family,
Right, okay.
and it would help them out.
So you met Joe, and you ran into him again in Fort Riley, Kansas, didn't you?
And then I joined the Army in Fort Bliss, Texas. I met him again.
Oh, you saw him in Fort Bliss?
That's where he joined the Army too.
Again, here, isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? Two Colorado farm boys.
Yeah.
And you show up, and then you both went to radio school, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you show us the book that he's mentioned in, that Recon Scout?
Where, here?
Yeah, that book, one of the guys, Joe's mentioned in there because he was in Troop C, right?
Yeah.
And this guy, Fred Salter, who's the author of the book, and he was also in the 91st Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron,
Right.
wasn't he? So just show us the cover of the book. And you can see that Recon Scout, through 4 campaigns of World War II, he fought and bled for America's freedom. Fred H. Salter. So this guy, Fred Salter, was in Troop C, and he wound up writing a whole book about it, his experience in the 91st Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron, and he actually dedicated the book to you.
Yeah.
So he dedicated that book to all the men in the squadron, including you, and Joe Martinez, to the 2 Martinez radio operators, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic. You both wind up in radio operator, but you stayed. You're one of the few that stayed in it as a career in long term, right?
Yeah. Now, after the war, I found out to join the Air Force with my Army rank. So I joined the Air
And
Force,
you were a sergeant in the Air Force?
and I was I put in my 20 years Army and Air Force time until I retired from the Air Force
What year did you retire from the Air Force?
in 1960.
Okay. So did you stay in radio, or were you in other venues?
No, I was still in radio because that was my career. I loved radio, communications.
Now, did you ever do computers in the infancy of computers?
No, They didn't have no computers.
Oh no, I mean when you were in the Air Force. When you were in the Air Force, you did, right? In the
Yeah, well,
60s and 70s.
After I retired from the Air Force, I went to work for the Army Signal Corps in the Pentagon
Okay.
as a facilities controller.
Okay.
Handle the Army communications around the world. And then I found out I could go into computers.
Okay.
And the Air Force set up a computer system down at Andrews Air Force Base to handle all of the logistics support for the Air Force.
Okay.
And they found out that it changed the whole concept of communications.
Right.
From 60 words to 100 words a minute to the fast speed of computers.
Wow.
So before you know it, they incorporated the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, all the security services,
Like which ones?
the White House, all the communications of the government into this computer
What
system.
other agencies were there?
In the
CIA, the NSA?
CIA, the National Security, Defense Security Agency, and every security agency in the world that we had.
So that, did you have to have a special clearance for that?
Oh yeah,
That
you
job?
had to go to a special school for that.
And what was your security clearance?
It had to be the highest top secret PSYOP, they call it, which is the highest security clearance you can get in the military.
So what did they do to check your background?
Well, they check it where you were born and raised. They send an investigator back to go back there.
They sent the FBI all the way back to where? To
Back
your
to
town?
not the FBI. They had a special security.
Oh, special
Yeah,
security.
each Army has one. The Air Force has another one.
I
The
see.
Navy has another.
So where did they went all the way to your town in Colorado?
They went to a town in Colorado where I was born and raised, and then my uncle, I had given my uncle's name as a reference so they could talk to over there. And they went over there to San Luis and
Did they talk to your third grade teacher?
talked to my uncle, and he said, when I came back on vacation, he said in Spanish, "Hijo, son, what have you done? What kind of trouble are you?"
You thought you were in trouble. You didn't know.
He couldn't figure it out what it was, you know. It's just that they were, he said the FBI was here looking for it. No, I explained to him what happened.
Trying to get a job. You know?
He was really shook up. My uncle,
funny.
he was funny.
Yeah, but you passed and you got the job. That's great.
Uncle Flavio, yeah.
Now, where did you meet your wife? In what year?
I met my wife in Denver, Colorado in 1945,
Wow.
after the war was over.
Okay.
I met her,
What was her name?
Stella Cruz.
Oh, she was from a Spanish family in northern New
Yeah,
Mexico?
she was from a Spanish family in northern New Mexico,
Okay,
yeah.
From Las Vegas?
And she was going to beautician school in Denver.
Oh, okay.
And
She graduated from what school in Albuquerque?
Manal High School, and she graduated from Manal High School
And what year was that?
1940,
Five, right? 1945 she graduated.
yeah, 1945, yeah.
So you met her, she was studying in Denver to become a beautician?
You're right.
And you were working in Denver?
I was working wherever I could find a job.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you meet her?
And I met her at my cousin's wedding
In Denver?
in Denver.
Oh.
See, the best man that was with the people there, he got into a fight with a bride. So he just took off, and they asked me if I could be his replacement. so I stood as a best man. And my wife came in with her cousin. Because her boyfriend was the brother of the girl that was getting married.
Oh, okay.
See, Nash was the brother of the girl.
Oh, I see.
So he brought her to the wedding, and they brought my wife, Stella, and that's where I met her.
That's where you met your wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you first saw her, what did you think? When you first saw her, what did you think when you saw her?
I liked her.
You liked her? Yeah, you did. Yeah. And you asked, how did you make her acquaintance?
Well, I went over there and talked to him.
Uh-huh.
And then her cousin introduced me. This is my cousin Stella, and got to talking. And before you knew it, we were dancing.
Yeah.
And before you knew it, we got married.
So you got married pretty quick in those days, right?
No, we didn't get married till before I got shipped to Germany.
Oh, okay.
See, I joined the. Well, I was going to study to be a school teacher.
Oh, okay.
But then I got to figuring out I have to buy a uniform, suit, and all that. And in those days, a suit, you had to be dressed formal, you know.
Oh, sure,
and
right.
tie and everything. And today, to teacher, it's very informal.
Right.
And I figure how much it costs you.
We're going to change the tape.
Okay.
Give you guys a break for a second.
All righty. Ooh. So, let's see, I'm trying to see if I covered everything I need to talk about. Let's see if I left anything.
1945.
Yeah, so that was before the World War ended, but just the winter before. That's amazing. The horse cavalry.
All right.
Well, what are they going to do with this picture that they're taking of me here?
Well, they aggregate all the veterans in a pile of tapes, so they have all the oral histories.
Oh, I see.
And then historians can go and watch the tapes and, learn things about the war, do more research. Use it as a kind of man in the street type of thing, an oral history, somebody who lived through it actually, rather than just a historical analysis in a book.
I see.
This is actually a person. You know how they do that? They have those, little history things where, like Band of Brothers. Did you ever see that? Where they talk about their war experiences, what they did, and you can watch it on TV in documentaries, or there's different things that they could use it for. So you never know, you might wind up in a documentary possibly, right?
There's always that possibility.
Yeah, so you could be in a documentary one day, and
Yeah.
but it's for historical reasons, to kind of keep a oral tradition. They've done it for all sorts of things, people that write music in the Appalachian Mountains, and just all sorts of topics that people are to preserve culture and history over the ages.
I
That's
see.
the whole goal.
I'm in pictures, baby. I've been in pictures.
You're what?
I'm in pictures.
You're in the mood. No, no. Hey, is that thing going to show up over his head there?
Not very much.
Should we move that thing?
Yeah, you can move it a little bit.
It can move all around. I was going to say that
There.
you can
Or I can
you
move
can
it
pull
over.
it over there. It's on a stand, isn't it? I mean,
I guess we should have thought of that before, but
It's actually okay because I've been pretty close into him.
oh, okay. So it doesn't matter. Okay.
is it wobbly?
So, Mr. Martinez, after you got married, how many children did you have?
I had 7 children.
Oh. And did any of them serve in the military?
Hmm?
Did any of them serve in the military?
I had 2 sons that served in the military.
Uh-huh.
Glenn served in the Navy, and Bobby served in the U.S. Army.
Okay. And what during, like around what decade? Was that during Vietnam?
No, Glenn went to the Pacific, but he was on a heavy cruiser, and they just went to as far as North Korea on the sea there.
So they weren't actually in the Vietnam island, but it was during the Vietnam combat.
No, that was during the.
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Bobby, the same thing, but in the army, but he didn't serve on the island.
No, he was stationed in Germany.
He was stationed in Germany during the Vietnam era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And any other government employees in your children? Did any of your children?
No.
What about Nina and working for the Congress and the senator and?
Yeah, she worked as a legislative aide for 2 different congressmen in New Mexico.
One senator and one congressman.
Right.
From New Mexico, okay. And then she worked for Rudy Giuliani.
Then she worked for Giuliani, which is the first mayor that was elected to office. He was a Republican in 25 years.
Oh, okay.
And she helped him with the election, with the Hispanic vote.
Okay.
And he elected her when he won the New York mayor. He assigned her to work in his office, one of his attorneys, yeah.
Yeah, so she was one of 3 attorneys in the office there at Rudy Giuliani's office and worked on City Hall. So, okay.
Right.
And so you had some, actually, you probably influenced your children to go into the military and be civil servants as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have a lot of that tradition carrying on. So what are the names of your children?
It started with the older was Irene.
And what year was she born?
1946.
Okay.
And then the next one was Martha.
Okay.
She was born 1948.
Okay.
And the next one was Bobby. He was born in 1940.
51.
51. I think Glenn was born in 1953.
52.
52 in Newfoundland. And then Donna Lee was born in Japan in
57.
Yeah. And then Nina was born in May the 14th, 1960.
And what Air Force base?
And Stella, you were born in 1962 on November 1st.
Right.
And that's it.
That was it. So you had 7 children.
7
Your
children.
family. That's a big family.
Yeah.
So you were a military man your whole career.
Military and civil service, yeah.
And civil service. So.
Yeah, I spent 5.5 years in the Army, and I spent the rest in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. And I retired with 20 years of service altogether, Army and Air Force. Mm-hmm. And then I went to work for civil service, and I worked 15 years for civil service.
Mm-hmm.
And I retired with 35 years of federal service.
So now you're retired since 1973, right?
Yeah.
So you've been retired a long time. And do you participate in any veterans events, or are you big on veterans events? Do you go to veterans events? Or?
Once in a while, not
Once
too
in a
often.
while, yeah. So after World War II, did you kind of want to forget about it, the war, and move on with your life?
I just wanted to rest in peace.
Yeah, you wanted to get on with your life. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and tell us about your childhood. Did you ever think about going into the war or going into the military when you were?
Never gave it a thought.
Never thought. Did you have any uncles from World War I?
I had Uncle Jacob. He was in World War I.
And what was his job in World War I? Infantry?
He was in the infantry, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And where was he in World War I?
In France.
Why don't you tell us the story about when he was when he heard or he woke up with the barn and the footsteps on, he felt his brothers and sisters were dying of pneumonia?
Oh, that during the influenza of 1918.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my father and mother, they died the day that I was born. I was born in the morning, I don't know what time, and they died right after, both of them died right after I was born. They died because they were both in bed with the flu influenza. And a lot of the family was there because they lived in two different houses. My dad and mother lived in one, and the other family lived in another house. And the one that took care of him was my great-great-grandfather, and he's the only one that didn't get affected with the flu. And to this day, he swore up and down that the reason he didn't get affected because he used to chew some tobacco, horseshoe tobacco.
What about the whiskey?
And
Didn't
no, he didn't drink much.
Oh,
No,
okay.
just
I thought
tobacco.
maybe he had
Yeah.
some whiskey that saved him. Some home remedy.
He said that tobacco is what saved him.
Oh, okay. So that's what
Yeah.
he felt. Now he had a lot of sons and daughters that died, right? Your great grandfather.
That was no, not on the Marcia side. On the Martinez side, it had a lot of them.
Oh, okay. So that was not the same.
No, my grandmother, I think, lost about 2 daughters and 3 sons.
On the Garcia side?
On the Martinez side.
Oh, on the Martinez side.
Mm-hmm.
So Nazarena Martinez lost
Yeah.
3 children.
Hmm?
3 children, and had one as a World War One, was in World War One.
Right.
Okay, wasn't there a story about he woke up and sensed that something was wrong? That there was. Do you remember that story?
About what?
About how he was in World War One fighting in France, and then he was in a bar sleeping in a barn, and then he woke up and had a bad feeling that somebody was walking on his chest, and it was about the time his brothers were dying in
Oh,
flu.
no, I don't remember that.
Oh, that must have been Clarabelle told me that story. Anyway, well, now tell us about World War II. Did you ever go to any like Bob Hope shows or NCO shows? Did they ever come and entertain the troops?
Yeah, when I went in North Africa, I seen the Bob Hope show,
Oh,
Jerry Colonna, and I forget the name of the lady. It was Martha Ray.
Martha Ray.
Yeah,
Huh. And were there a lot of troops there?
yeah.
It was a lot of fun, was it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then I went to another one in Italy.
In Italy?
Yeah.
In Naples or?
No, in Caserta, Italy.
In
It's just
Caserta?
north of Naples.
Okay. And
I
who
went-
was on that one? Was there another
This
Bob
was
Hope?
Bob Hope, Jerry Colonna, and I don't know what the lady they had was
A
on that
different
show.
lady, huh?
Yeah.
So you saw 2 Bob Hope shows
Yeah.
during your stay over there during World War II.
Right.
And did you think that was a good thing for the troops? Did that help out?
Sure did.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That sure was a good booster
Yeah.
for the troops.
Morale booster. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So nowadays, the troops don't fight as long in the field as they did. But how many years you were fighting there? 3.5 years.
3.5 years,
And you didn't get any relief, did you?
No.
You just kept fighting until the war ended.
just till the war ended.
So that's a lot of fighting.
Today they send them for 1 year and they ship them back to the States again. And they go back another year and what have you. So they have it much easier, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So now during World War II, did you ever feel like you were going to die?
Every day. Every day I died.
Every day you died. No.
But somehow I survived.
You survived.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of people all around that were dying on your side?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever have to bury anyone or?
No, we never. That wasn't
your
a job.
Yeah, there's a special troop.
They
that
had
did that,
special people that do that.
that did that. Did you ever Did you ever get injured?
No,
Never got injured. So without a scratch, you came out of 3.5 years of battle.
never got a scratch.
Okay. Did you ever have to go to the hospital?
I went I went to the hospital for yellow jaundice.
Where were you?
Huh?
In Sicily?
Yeah, in Sicily. Yeah. And then I went to the hospital in Casablanca when I was there.
What is yellow jaundice?
Huh?
What is yellow jaundice?
Yellow jaundice is a thing that turns your body yellow.
Oh, so it affects
Your
your
whole body, your arms, skin is yellow and everything.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah,
And then you went to the hospital. Where did they put you in the hospital?
yeah.
Where was the hospital?
It was in Algiers.
In Algiers. Did you stay there in Algiers?
Yeah.
What happened when they let you out? Did you have to get reassigned to another unit?
Well, see, what they do when you get out of the hospital, they would put you in a pool, a certain area, and they assign you wherever they needed troops. So you didn't know where you was going to go.
Oh.
So what I done, I got out of the hospital, and I said, I'm not going to go to that pool. I'm gonna go AWL, and I'll get a plane and hitch a right to Sicily.
Or to Italy, where they had already moved?
Yeah.
Troops had already moved from Sicily to Italy?
And you got the plane over there, and I hitchhiked all the way up to the front line where my outfit was, and I joined the 91st Cavalry again.
The same outfit?
Yeah.
Because you didn't, why was that? You didn't want to fight with strangers?
I didn't want to fight another outfit. I had too many friends in the 91st.
Oh, I see.
You know, it'd be a total. So I joined it.
So you guys kind of became like a family. You became attached to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you trained all the way and been in the war together, so you defended each other. You
That's
looked out
right.
for each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a like. Now, do you think the bond that you form with in the military is stronger than the bond at work, regular civilian work?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. Why is that? Do you think?
Well, because you suffered with him with all kinds of things, you know, and you didn't know when one was going to die or the other was going to die, and it's sort of a thing you cannot describe how you were so too close to each other.
Huh.
Because I guess because of the environment, the way the war was, you know.
Uh-huh. It was a
Well-
heightened.
One day you had a friend, next day he's gone.
Wow.
But you survived somehow or another. And you went through it.
Yeah. And did you ever feel like you were an orphan and did you feel like you didn't have much to go home to, or how did you feel about things?
Well, I know I didn't have a home to go to,
Yeah.
so it didn't bother me at all. I had already left there, and I knew I wasn't going back.
Right.
I was going to form my own home.
Right. Right. So when you were in the war, did you have anyone you used to write to?
I write to different girls.
Oh, who were these people?
No, the girl I met in Richmond, Virginia.
When you were at Camp AP Hill?
Yeah, AP here, Virginia. We used to go on leave to Richmond, Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And I met this girl. She took me to her house, and I used to stay over there on weekends when I got a pass. And then I met.
You used to write to her? Do you remember her name? What was her
Yeah,
name?
Peggy Flanagan.
Peggy Flanagan, a nice Irish girl.
She was Irish.
Yeah, did she have red hair? Did she have red hair?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, brunette.
A brunette. So did she write back to you in the war?
Yeah, and then we lost contact. We never wrote to each other again.
So how many letters did you write to her?
I don't know.
No,
Quite a few. I
quite
met,
a few.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and then you lost contact during the war. You lost contact. You stopped writing.
No, yeah, during the war.
Yeah.
And then I found out she got married with some other GI.
Oh, okay.
And that was the end of our
That was the end
relationship.
of that letter writing. Yeah. So did you write any family? Anyone in your family?
I'd write to my sister once in a while.
To Duvie?
Yeah.
Yeah. And would she write back too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Not too often. I write once in a while.
yeah. Did you ever win any medals or awards, or your unit win awards for?
Well, I had 9 medals. I don't even know what they were.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were.
Did you have? Well, I know your unit won the French de Guerre or the
Croix de Guerre. Yeah.
For the 91st. You got awarded the Croix de Guerre, and then you had You had all your battle
Yeah.
medals. So. But did you ever get cited for any gallantry or heroic thing that you
No.
did? Nothing out of the ordinary. Just pretty much did your job and lived through it and fought,
That's right.
and won the war. So you were excited about that to get through the end of it. What was the day that you were let out of service when you had your 105 points? What date was that?
July the 4th in Fort Carson, Colorado,
And what year was that?
1945.
Wow. So when did your Victory Europe was May of 1945, and then you had Victory Japan, right? Where were you after you got enough points? Where they flew you back to Colorado, and
Yeah, I was already discharged, and I was civilian.
so
And because the Japanese surrendered in August
okay.
1945.
So between May and August, you were already become a civilian again.
Yeah.
After 4th of July, and you went back home to San Luis.
Well, I spent a week there, and then I went up to Colorado Springs and then Denver. And I stayed in Denver when I enlisted in the Air Force.
Oh, okay. And that's when you heard about. Well, when did you hear about Europe? Victory Europe was when you were in Colorado.
Well,
No,
you mean
Victory Japan. I'm sorry.
I was going from Colorado Springs to Denver by bus, and we stopped at Castle Rock in Colorado, about halfway between Denver and Colorado Springs, and that's where I heard that the war
On the
Japanese had surrendered.
On the radio. Wow.
So when I got to Denver, there was a lot of celebration in the streets, you know,
Oh, really? Downtown Denver?
downtown Denver, yeah.
Were people hugging and
People were
kissing?
hugging each other and kissing each other and having a ball.
Drinking beers and having
Yeah.
a jolly time?
That's right.
Were you happy that the war was over?
I sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that there would be more wars during your lifetime?
Yeah.
Yeah? You thought there would be more? Why is that?
There was still a lot of conflict in the world, you know,
Uh-huh.
and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Now they're fighting this terrorist group, you know, Bin Laden, and then the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah.
And I think our government made the wrong mistake by going to Iraq, and they're paying a price for it now.
Oh, yeah.
Costing us billions and billions of dollars to maintain that country over there.
Yeah.
So only time will tell
Yeah. Uh-huh.
how the outcome will be.
Right. But World War II is considered to be, everybody was behind it because we were attacked. But weren't we attacked in 9/11? Didn't you consider that an attack?
Yeah,
Yeah. So.
that was by Bin Laden,
Yeah. Okay.
the terrorist group that we're fighting now.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you feel when 9/11 happened?
But we were kind of sad about it because, see, actually, what the Bin Laden were doing, they were the Twin Towers were a financial empire,
Right.
and the Jewish owned about probably 70% of it.
Right.
So they actually were attacking the Jewish.
You don't think they were attacking the U.S.?
Well, they were attacking the U.S. also because we have supported Israel for so many years,
Uh-huh.
and we're still supporting them.
Yeah. So were you surprised that they did that?
Yes, I was. I never expected they would do something like that.
No?
Never even imagined they would come here and train as pilots to fly a super jet like that.
Into a civilian building? Yeah.
Yeah, never.
Yeah. Well, World War II was, that was probably the biggest thing in your generation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When you all get together, you all ask each other, were you in World War II? Did you serve? Did you usually ask that when you get to these senior citizen centers? You know who all the veterans are? So that's a big part of your life still, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what happened while World War II, there's so many people lost, like Russia lost 20 million, Germany lost pretty close to 20 million,
Or
France lost a bunch of million, England. We were the one that lost the less people. I think we had lost 800,000 killed, wounded during the war.
yeah. So yeah.
Because we fought less than they did.
Right. So it sounds like you learned a lot from your experiences in World War II, and what would be the most important thing you'd want to teach the generations of the future? If you could talk to all of them and tell them from your experiences of war, what would your thought be?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems we have, the United States does not teach hardly any foreign language to people in high schools or nothing. So we are really, we're the dominant nation in the world today.
Right.
And people look down to us
And why is
because
that?
we're so powerful, you know.
Uh-huh.
And but then we go to a foreign country, we don't speak no languages.
Right.
And that you talk about them, they're always learning English, American English.
Okay.
Because this country is recognized as the most wonderful country in the world.
So do you think that can backfire on us one day?
Well, eventually, if we don't do something about it, it will. You go to overseas, we travel a lot,
Corporations?
but we don't speak the language.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that more. I've learned that through my lifetime.
And World War
I
II,
speak
when you were in
German,
Italy?
I speak Italian,
Uh-huh.
I speak Portuguese, I understand French, and I speak a lot of words in French. And people appreciate when you talk their language.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's one major lesson.
There's
What
one-
about lessons about war? What would you tell people that had to decide, should we go to war or not go to war? What kind of things would you have them think about?
Well, it all depends how things are.
Right?
Whether it's, I know that one thing, the government, when they invaded Iraq, they made the biggest mistake they ever made because they had the wrong information. Security Service provided the president with the wrong information.
Okay.
They said they were looking for the weapons of mass destruction. And the president had to take their word for it because they're the security people.
Right.
They're in the know-how.
Right.
So they gave him the wrong information.
So you get,
So
that's a big danger.
So he's a guy that's in charge. So he's taking the blunt of the attack.
Right.
But if you think of it otherwise, he has to depend on those people to run the government.
Exact communications, isn't that what you did in the government?
Right.
So you have firsthand knowledge of how important that is,
Right.
having had a career in that. And what else would you have the rest of the world think about as far as war? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing, a necessary thing? What do you think?
But what?
That war is necessary? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it necessary? What is your opinion of war in general?
Well, war is necessary. An example, like now, we'll find a Bin Laden terrorist group all over the world.
Right.
And we have to do something about it.
Right.
Or they're going to come here and destroy us.
Right. Okay.
I don't think they'll ever destroy us if they don't have the power, they don't have the capability to do it. But they'll try any trick in the world to try to disrupt our government and all that.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, do you have anything else that you can think of during the war years that? What kind of music did you listen to?
Music?
Yeah. During.
I listen. Well, the biggest music we listen to is that lady that used to broadcast from Germany. What was her name? I can't think of her name.
Rose? No, that was Japan.
No,
Voiceover
Japan had one and Germany had one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Marlene Dietrich?
No.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of that one.
Okay, but there was somebody in.
She used to sing some beautiful, send us beautiful music.
Ah, like Glenn
She
Miller?
tried to discourage us to fight the Germans and this and that, propaganda.
Propaganda.
But,
Did you hear it on the radio?
You hear it on the radio all the time,
But you'd also hear music too.
And then you hear it from the Armed Forces radio station also.
Okay.
All
And,
kinds of music.
What
there.
about what magazines did you read and newspapers?
We didn't get any hardly at all. I didn't.
Right. Okay.
We used to get a newspaper that was published by the military.
What was the name of that? Stars and Stripes? Is that it?
That's Stars and Stripes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you read that,
Mm-hmm. And of course, I was in Italy mostly all the time, so I read Italian. So I used to read a lot of Italian there in the
Did
newspaper.
you ever use that for the advantage of the army to speak Italian? Did you ever serve as a translator?
No.
No, not really. Okay. Some, maybe.
Well, I translate to some of the GIs that didn't
Right.
understand it, you know,
When they
something
were
like that.
talking and you'd say, this is what
Yeah.
you said. Yeah, okay.
But
So that was kind of helpful a little bit. And, or maybe when you were talking to your Italian girlfriends.
right.
You know, that was useful then too, or other Italians that you met. And so socially, there wasn't a lot of time off, was there, during the war? So it just day after day of fighting, pretty much.
Now you get a break for a month or so, or 2 or 3 weeks, whatever. Then you go back again. And then you get an R&R every 5 days, once in a blue moon.
Oh, once in a blue moon, you get a R&R for 5 days. Oh, okay.
I only went to 2 R&Rs during the war in 3.5 years. I went one to Naples, not Naples, Caserta. One to Caserta, and then one to Rome.
Oh, I see. Huh.
It's the only 5 days that I had R&R.
So, okay, that's interesting.
And the reason you went down there is to take all your old clothes out, because you stunk like crazy.
Yeah.
Because you didn't shower and during the war, you just give yourself a sponge bath.
Yeah.
And
How did you bathe yourselves, with your helmets? Put water
no,
in
you
your
put
helmet?
water in your helmet,
Oh, wow.
and you warm it up with a little heater that we had.
Uh-huh.
And then you take you sponge your body.
Wow. What about, did you ever encounter other foreign units, like in North Africa, one that was from the Congo?
Yeah, I encountered the French had the French Foreign Legion there, and they were fighting in Africa, in Sicily and in Italy, and then we had Brazilian troops there that were fighting there.
And you met some occasionally? Did you ever get to see them and wave to them, or did you talk to them?
No, we were isolated from them. They had their own front that they would fight on, and we had ours. And
But you knew they were nearby.
so you got to see them.
Oh, okay. What about from the Congo? Didn't you have some that would...
Yeah, the French had these big 6-footers, Congo troops from
Africa?
Equatorial Africa. I don't know what
Wow.
country there, and they were very, very good for night patrol.
Uh-huh.
They infiltrate the German lines, and the French used to pay them a quarter for every year they brought back. So they chopped their head off.
Wow.
And so it got too bad there for us that they raided some of our bivouac areas where we were sleeping, and they cut Americans' throat out.
Why,
So they made us put a white tape in the back of our helmet, so they could recognize that it was American, not German.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And were you ever, how far from the enemy were you when you were fighting in the battle? Were you 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, a mile, 2 miles? How far were you?
Well, it depended where you were. I mean, if you was the infantry was the one that got the closest to the enemy. We never got that close. We got in combat. We got that close, but we were at a distance because we were used strictly for reconnaissance.
Okay.
We weren't used strictly to fight.
But what about when you were in Italy? At times you were used as infantry.
Well, you had to fight.
And you would fight, right?
Yeah.
How close was the enemy then?
We were right next to them.
You mean as close as you, like 2 feet?
Right.
So did you ever have to shoot somebody that close?
Yeah, and many of them.
Did you ever look in anybody's eyes and shoot them?
Yeah.
Wow. What was it like the first time you took a life? Were you,
They didn't faze me a bit.
well, why not?
I guess I was keyed for it and all that, because either he died or I'm going to die.
Right? And that was that.
So you turn into a monster.
You turn into a monster to survive, right?
That's right.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
No.
So tell me about that story where you surrounded the tower and you threw up a grenade. In Italy, they had some people with guns, they were shooting at you?
No, what happened was the commander told me, he says, I want you to get 4 guys.
Because you were a sergeant.
See, there was there was a little village there, and they had a cobblestone street, and you had to go up the hill, and the Germans had sharpshooters over there,
Snipers?
the snipers.
Huh.
So I think they had about 4 of them. So I had to pick 4 men, and I picked 3 guys, and then the other I picked was his name was Catone. He's Italian, Catone. I said, you go with me, Tony. Man, I can't see you. He had real bifocal glasses. What are you trading me up for? I can't see. You can see good enough. Let's go. So we zigzagged back and forth, till we get up to the top where the sharpshooters were.
Did you have them surround the?
Well, we finally got them surrounded, and they finally threw out the flag because they knew they were going to get killed by those. They're not that stupid. So they knew they were surrounded. They gave up.
Did you shoot at them or did you throw grenades?
No, we were shooting at them as we were going up the hill.
Oh, I see.
Up at the Cobblestone Street, but you had to zigzag because the street was very narrow. So you could go fast. By the time he aimed at you, you were already on the other side. See?
Okay.
Or back where he was
Right,
going.
he was zigzagging.
Yeah, you were beating him to the punch.
Now, was it, where, do you remember where that was in Italy?
It was, that was,
South of Rome?
no, that was north of Florence.
North of Florence?
Between Florence and Bologna.
Between Florence and Bologna?
Right after the Apennines.
Wow. So what happened when you completed that? You made it out and you captured them?
Yeah, they put up the white flag and it came down from a tower. And that was the end of that.
Yeah. So what did you do when when these Germans surrendered? What did you do with these troops?
Well, we just take them back down the hill where the rest of the squadron was, and they turned them over to whoever was going to take them back to the POW camp, wherever they had.
Oh, okay. So
We had nothing to do with that. We got them and
you just
just took care.
passed them on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you shoot with just a gun? What type of weapons did you use?
Well, I had a submachine gun and I had a .45 pistol. And then the other guys had, and then we had the M1 also. But I didn't carry the M1 either. I had to carry the submachine gun or the M1.
Oh, okay.
So I usually carry mostly the submachine gun.
On your Jeep? Was it on your Jeep?
Yeah, and also on the Jeep we had a 30 caliber.
Machine gun.
And if I was in a scout car, we had a 50 caliber and a 30 caliber.
And what about the half track?
And the half track, yeah, that's where we had the 50 and the 30.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And on Jeep we just had the 30 caliber.
Right. So would you dismount and shoot from holes, or
No, we stayed in the Jeep and we shot from air.
you shot from the Jeep? I see. And did you sleep in foxholes, or where did you sleep?
Well, when you got to an area, you had a bivouac area, you had to dig your foxhole right away. And that's where you slept.
Right.
Yeah.
In the foxhole. So is that everyone again?
Oh, no, we're doing okay.
Oh,
I
okay.
can sit a while longer.
Oh, okay.
3 minutes, yeah.
Okay. I was curious, did you get much sleep at night?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And
Like when we went into Rome, we hadn't slept. I hadn't slept for a long time. I don't know how many days, because I was on the radio constantly. And we got to Rome, and the outskirts of Rome, on the autostrada, what they call the autostrada, the main highway, coming in from the south. And they told us to bivouac in the area there, and this autostrada had a lot of trees on each side. And we just parked our vehicles there, and I just passed out there. The Germans were bombing that area every 15, 20 minutes. I just passed out and I like dead. I didn't know what was going on or nothing.
you didn't even hear it. You were
I didn't
so
hear nothing. I was
exhausted.
just completely out. After about a couple of hours or so, I don't know how long, the guy says, all excited, well, you should have seen all this strafing and bombing that we had from the Germans, F-109s. They had a German fighter
The
called
Messerschmitts?
Messerschmitt F-109.
Uh-huh.
And I never heard nothing.
Wow. You're so exhausted.
That's why today I'm a very heavy sleeper.
You can sleep through anything.
It's harder to, once I go to sleep completely dead, it's hard to wake me up.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So yeah,
Yeah.
you carry that with you. And did you ever have to see one of your own friends die?
Mhm.
Did you ever witness a friend of yours die? Like a buddy? Did you see a buddy die? Did you ever see a buddy die?
I seen one buddy of mine die, and that was it.
What happened there?
Well, when we were up in the Apennines in north of Florence, we stayed there all winter long. So he was staying in the house, and he got up one morning and stretching himself out, and I was down the hill maybe 100 yards from him, and they start shelling us again. They got Germans, and this shell hit right in front of him. All the shrapnel that flew out with all the force, you know, just went into his body. And he died right away.
Yeah.
It's sickening.
Do you remember his name?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Was he from Indiana or was he?
He was from Indiana.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one time that you saw. He was a close buddy of yours.